Okay, Hesh Sagafi here, Liberty Home Mortgage. How important is employment history? So when you're going to buy a home, one of the things that the loan officer and the lender are going to want to hear about is your employment history. Income determines how big of a loan I can give you. Well, there are two parts that I look at as to qualifying you based on your income. One is the dollar figure of the income. The other is actually your employment history. How important is employment history? Let me go over this, okay? So we're focusing on this part of the loan application. I'm not talking about credit. I'm not talking about down payment money. Those are other videos. Find those videos on my page. They exist. They're there. Send me a text or a call and I'll get them to you anyways. Let's talk about income. When it comes to employment history, this is the very basic vanilla starting point of employment. You have to be on the job with the same employer for 2 consecutive years with no breaks. Now, before every loan officer out there starts throwing stuff at the television there and saying, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, that's the starting point. I can show you loans that I've closed where the person never even had a job. They just graduated college and they start being a nurse next month, and I'm closing a loan for them before they even begin their job. They've never had a regular paying W-2 job. They just got out of school and we close and they haven't even started the job yet. So does that exist? Yes, I'll get there, okay? Let's start at step one. Step one is this. Have you been with the same employer for 2 consecutive years? If you are looking to buy a home, that's the starting point. If you answered yes, full-time, 2 consecutive years, no breaks, no gaps, great. That sounds good. That doesn't mean you get the loan. That means your employment history checks out okay based on that. Now let's go to this one. If you're sitting here watching me saying, holy cow, Hesh, I have not been with this employer today for 2 consecutive years. Here's what I'm going to say to you. Okay, when was your start date at your current employer? And when was your start date and stop date at your previous employer? And how much of a gap was between the end date of your last employer and the start date of your new employer? We also want to watch that gap. So where were you previous to your current employer? Now watch this one. If you've been in the same line of work for 2 consecutive years, so in other words, you're not with the same employer for 2 consecutive years, like, Hesh, I was with one employer, but I just started this new job and I've been with this employer for 2 months. Great. Is it the same line of work that you've had for the last 2 consecutive years? If you start off and say, absolutely, Hesh, I'm an analyst, I'm a graphic designer, I've been in graphic design for 10 years, I worked for ABC company for a year and a half, I'm now at XYZ company for the last 7 months, great. 7 months with your current employer, 1 year, 6 months with your previous, that's 2 years and 1 month. That meets the 2-year requirement. You say, Hesh, I left on a Friday, I started on a Monday. It's a clean break, a clean move. I was full-time previously, I'm full-time today. Great. It checks out, no different than if you were 2 years with the same employer. No problems. Now, you could even say, I was part-time in my last job, I took this job, and now I'm full-time. Great. Same line of work, 2 years, you're good, okay? Now, let's get a little trickier. So I always say this, I break down the employment history in 3 steps. You'll see I always break stuff down in steps, okay? Credit, income, money, 3 steps to get a loan. When it comes to employment history, I look at the source of the employment, the employer. There's 3 steps there. Step 1, same employer, same job for 2 consecutive years. If you don't have that one, then we go same line of work for 2 consecutive years. If you don't have that one, step 3 is what's the story? This is where you've got to tell me the story, okay? There's a lot of different versions or combinations or things that you don't need 2 consecutive years, or you don't need 2 years, same employer. You don't need 2 years, same line of work. Let's go to what's the story. I'll give you an example. You're in college. It's December of 22 when I'm shooting this video. You just graduated college this month. You graduated college with a degree in engineering. You've never worked a day in your life at a regular job where you were paid. You went straight through college. You graduate this month with a degree in engineering. You get a job, you get an offer letter from Boeing, okay? You're gonna be an engineer designing 747s, okay? With Rolls-Royce engines. And you graduate in December. Your contract says you begin as an engineer in February. Here's what we do. Your college degree is in engineering. We're going to count your college history as employment history, and we move that over to your contract, your offer contract that you have. You're good, no problems at all. Close the loan, no problem. Give you another example. You are a truck driver. You were an owner-operator, so you were self-employed, and you were an owner-operator for 5 years, and all of a sudden, 7 months ago, you actually went to work for a company who now payrolls you. They pay you by the hour. They pay you $30 an hour, 40 hours a week full time, and you say, Hesh, I was self-employed and now I went to employed. That's fine. Same line of work. Even though your pay type changed, you went from a Schedule C 1099 self-employed person to a W-2 payroll person. Different, but that's doable. So you have to understand when it comes to employment history and the importance of employment history, the questions are, how long have you been with your current employer? I'm hoping 2 years, same employer. Or 2 years, same line of work. That's step 2. Step 3 is, what's the story? Tell me what the story is. Let me see if I can put it together. Now, if you're changing jobs every 3 months and you've been with 9 different employers in the last year or something like that, that's gonna be pretty hard to get qualified. There's only so many different ways we could spin a story. But pay attention to employment history. It is a key part to getting a mortgage. And of course, call me if you have questions. I do lend in 45 states after all. So like, subscribe, and share these videos. And keep following. We'll be watching my upcoming videos. Talk to you guys later.